Welcome to the very first episode of
That's what they all say.
Conversations Across Generations.
This is our first episode. And so we thought that starting out, we would just talk a little bit about why we're doing a podcast. And so, Hope, well, why are you wanting to do a podcast?
So I'm going to give a little story first because I proposed this idea to you. So I was at school. I was walking back from a very long day of school, and I was just thinking over the summer, and I was thinking of things I'm going to do with people. And then I just realized, didn't have anything really planned with my dad. And I don't know why this thought popped into my brain, but I was like, I should start a podcast with my dad. I was like, actually, that's not a bad idea. So I texted you and I was like, would you want to start a podcast? You're like, sure, why not? And then we kind of delved into what would it actually be about? And so first of all, it's conversations with you, conversations across two generations, my generation and your generation. It's also a time for me to hear stories that I might have not heard or not heard as much in depth, stories from your childhood, from college, from your work in the military. You have some pretty awesome stories and I love to hear them. And so this podcast would be a great opportunity to document them and to just have one-on-one time with you. I also love hearing people's stories. And so not only your stories, but also potentially maybe other people's stories on this podcast. And then lastly, I actually realized as we were developing the name for our podcast, Conversations Across Generations, the Bible actually has surprisingly some Bible verses about it. And they're all actually in Psalms. And this is the Holman Christian Standard Bible version. So Psalm 22, 27 to 31 says, all the ends of the earth will remember and turn to the Lord. All the families of the nations will bow down before you. For kingship belongs to the Lord. He rules over the nations. I'm skipping to verse 30. Their descendants will serve him. The next generation will be told about the Lord. And then Psalm 78:4 says, we must not hide them from their children, but must tell a future generation the praises of the Lord, his might, and the wonderful works he has performed. And then Psalm 79:13 says, then we, your people, the sheep of your pasture, will thank you forever. We will declare your praise to generation after generation. And then lastly, Psalm 145:4 says, one generation will declare your works to the next and will proclaim your mighty acts. And so just considering all of those verses, I think in this modern age that we live in with new technology, podcasting would be a great opportunity for one generation, your generation, to tell the next generation, my generation, of the works that God has done and what he is also doing. So that's my thoughts.
Well, I remember when you approached me about it, at first I thought, sure, why not? And then, we did spend some time thinking about, well, what would we want to get out of it and why would we really want to do it? And I only actually have one verse, it's 2 Timothy 2:2, which is the things that you've heard me say in the presence of many witnesses, and trust reliable men who will also be able to instruct others also. And very much it's this idea, kind of the New Testament idea of discipleship, of Paul to Timothy, to faithful men, to others also. And so to me, this is just kind of like an extension of that, of sort of telling stories and life lessons in order to sort of help your generation. And two things actually kind of came to mind as you were mentioning this. One was a quote from Warren Buffett, or I think it's attributed to him, that says, it's great to learn from your own mistakes, but it's even better if you learn from someone else's mistakes so you don't have to make them. So hopefully there'll be some lessons learned from some of the mistakes that I've made that'll help you so you don't have to make the same ones. So the second thing that happened was I was helping someone in some of my leadership coaching. I was helping them through their strengths, and they made a statement and they said, I wish I had known about this 30 years ago. And so I sort of did the back of the envelope math. 30 years ago for me would have been in my early 20s. And I did feel like some of the lessons that I've learned, some of the leadership things that I've learned and that I now teach, I really wish I had known them starting out. And so now that you're getting pretty close to your early 20s, then I felt like this would be an opportunity maybe to sort of kickstart that a little bit and help you start thinking about, what does it mean to be a leader? What does it mean to, what are some of the lessons that you can learn from that as well? And so rather than having to wait until you're in your 50s and think, I wish I'd known about these in my 20s, hopefully you'll move into your 20s knowing about them a little bit more. So that was sort of why I thought, this would be fun. I would enjoy it. I also get a chance to spend some time with you as well over the summer. And
uninterrupted time.
Uninterrupted time, right. So as folks will eventually find out, right? We have 5 kids. You're number 4 of the 5, and so sometimes getting some quality time together can be a little difficult.
Challenging.
And challenging. So maybe at least a little bit. This just provides an impetus for us to spend a little bit of quality time together.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's our reasons for doing this podcast. And hopefully there'll be something that we can share and that folks will get hopefully this will be something that people will be able to get something out of and enjoy it and maybe learn a few life lessons along the way
Without having to learn it the hard way.
without having to learn it the hard way. Final question might be why the generations to generations is fairly obvious, I think, because of our different generations. The other thing that people might be interested in is why the title of That's What
So
They
they
All Say. So I'll let you answer that one. Hope.
So that's what they all say is a favorite catchphrase of mine, favorite sarcastic catchphrase of mine that I love to use whenever somebody says something and I'm like, haha, that's what they all say. And I had said it once when we were trying to figure out a name. And I just was like, actually, that's not a bad idea because we're talking about what everybody says on this podcast. And there's a lot of stuff that we'll talk about. But the point for me is to glean information and lessons from what we talk about and to think critically about that and to analyze what we all say on here.
So I gave Hope a challenge. I said, you're going to have to figure out for each of these episodes, how do we get that tagline in there? That's what they all
Yeah.
say. So keep an eye and see how well she does it.